So after being a UX designer for 6 years, looking back, I realized that how you learn UX design seriously matters. And you're probably wondering why. Why? Let's get real for a second here. Everyone wants to know, what is the best way to learn UX design? People always ask, should I go to a fancy university, drop a ton of cash on a boot camp, or just watch a bunch of YouTube tutorials and figure it out myself? Honestly, overall, how to get a UX job fast and also avoiding any emotional damage in the process.
Emotional damage!
In some of my past videos, I've said that the decision should be based off of where you live, how much money you have, how much time you have. But honestly, I don't think that's it. So clearly I've had a chance to reflect and come out of my body a little bit and possibly take a completely different stance. I'm gonna knock you out with the truth here. If you don't know your learning style, you're screwed.
Uh-oh.
And don't worry, this video is not just me telling you that you need to learn your learning style. I'm gonna give you a whole checklist at the end here, but bear with me a little bit. If you don't take the time to figure out your learning style first, you could waste a ton of money and time. And yeah, money is important. Like, girl, I get it. I had to scrape the barrel to try and get the cash that I needed for my UX bootcamp. But at the end of the day, you could put a price tag on the time that you spend looking at YouTube playlists, or $40,000 on a master's program, or $8,000 on a bootcamp. None of that matters if you don't think you're gonna complete it. To be brutally honest, if you don't have 10 to 20 hours to dedicate time to learning UX design, then what are we doing here? Do not leave yet, because I'm about to tell you eventually what I did in order to learn UX design and why I did that. And then also at the end, I'm gonna show you a checklist of all the things that you should consider to find the best way to learn UX design so you do not waste time and money. Look, so when I transitioned into UX, I knew that I couldn't figure it out on my own. I tend to get very overwhelmed easily, like even like the IKEA manuals kind of like really get to me. So I need that guidance, I need that structure, I need that direction. And I knew that about myself. I wanted to learn in person because I kind of missed the idea of being in like a teacher-student like type classroom. I was looking at General Assembly at that time and they didn't have any in-person classes in my city and they only had them in major cities, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna move just for this course. It just wasn't something I was willing to do at that time. So although it was online, I ended up doing a boot camp. What I am so thankful that I did is that I chose a part-time track, and I kid you not, the amount of people that I talked to who've said they accidentally did the full-time is insane. A lot of these boot camps say, hey, if you do the full-time course, like you're done in 3 or 6 months, which is ludicrous. In order to learn so much information, I do not know how you can dedicate only 3 to 6 months to do that. And to be completely honest with you, even my part-time course ended up taking like 10 months to a year. I'm gonna put a video up here for you to check out because this one's so important to watch if you end up going into Design Lab bootcamp, or honestly any bootcamp, because you have to really do your research when it comes to the timeline. That's the only thing that I would say is like the watch out is I don't regret doing the part-time course, but even with the part-time, I was like, this definitely was marketed as something that I could become a UX designer faster. And I just really want you to understand the realistic expectations that it might not be the case, because again, it depends on your learning style and your pace. Okay, moving on to my checklist. Once you've figured out your learning style and your pace, you're only halfway there. So let's go through the rest of the steps. So first is the foundational learning. We basically just talked about this. Foundational learning can be online courses like Coursera or Udemy, and then there's boot camps, there's also master's programs, there's also self-taught. And in this section, you're really just trying to make sure you understand the UX basics, understand UX strategy, all the way to the process from research to iteration, all the way to implementation. The rest are things you really want to consider when you're looking looking at other programs as well. And the second one is hands-on learning. So this is where you're actually putting those skills into practice, whether or not you read a few books on your own or you did a curriculum. Now it's time to actually get to designing. That's why I think it's really important to get design projects, because through design projects, you're going to learn how to use certain design tools. You're really going to be able to put the pen to paper and see how your design skills line up with what you've learned. You could do this through multiple ways, whether that's a personal project, a freelance project, which they're kind of hard to come by when you're a newbie, so I wouldn't really bank on that one. Or like what I did is a bootcamp project where they give you theoretical case studies to work on. There are low cost ways to do this. You do not have to shell out $8,000 on a bootcamp just to practice your design skills. There's a ton of challenges and websites out there that'll help you give you different types of design challenges. I will link them in the description below because I do not know them off the top of my head. So check those out if you are wanting to just sharpen your skills. The third one is a community. Honestly, this is a non-negotiable. I don't care if you're doing this on your own or if you're doing this through a master's or a bootcamp, you need to find a group of people to give you design feedback. But the great thing is, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be through a formal community that you pay for. You don't have to pay for your friends. You can actually find a lot of strangers online that are willing to help. Shockingly, I figured this out myself too. For example, I have seen research subreddits and you can post like your prototypes on there and ask for feedback. You can go on a Facebook group. I think there are some LinkedIn groups out there too, and just put your designs out there and ask for feedback. Granted, the only drawback to this is you want to do your research to see if there's a high level of engagement. What I mean by that is if you put your designs out into the world and no one ever responds, obviously we have a problem there. So that's why it is, in a sense, a bonus to be able to go to a boot camp, and you do pay for your friends, meaning you do pay for responses. But again, you just have to outweigh your pros and cons. The fourth one is portfolio building. Your portfolio is your ticket to jobs. You need tangible work to show to clients and employers. It does not have to be a paid project. If you're interested, I just exposed my first portfolio that got me my first UX design job. I'm gonna link it up here, so check it out. How to build a portfolio? I'll be super honest here. My bootcamp didn't really help me on exactly how to build a portfolio. They just showed me a bunch of examples of portfolios, which you could get for free. But also even better, what's for free is all these YouTube tutorials on how to build a portfolio basically from scratch. Like, there's so many amazing videos out there showing you what website to use as a platform and all the way to just launching it. It's beautiful. The next one is job placement and career support. I think one thing I didn't do is ask myself whether or not my program will actually get me a job. Like, do they have resources to career coaches or resume building or connections to certain companies or like internship programs? The bootcamp that I did for UX Academy, they had a career coach at the end. It was reassuring to know that even after I graduated, I had access to a career coach. It made me feel like my money was going a little bit further than if I just put it towards just learning about the UX design course itself and making my portfolio. Did feel like there was a little bit of aftercare there that I felt like is really needed when you're feeling kind of like discouraged or you're kind of scared and you don't know if you'll actually be able to land a UX design job. By no means is to say that you should go with one that gives you job placement, because if anyone knows my other videos, it's not actually guaranteed. They might give you your money back if you don't get a job within like a 5-6 month period, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to get that job. And that means if you're self-motivated and you're a go-getter, you don't need to spend money on a career coach. You will figure it out on your own. And honestly, respect. Now that you've gotten this checklist, I'm gonna say, there was no right way to learn UX design. But what I'm trying to say is if you don't take the time to figure out your learning style and your pace and your time commitment, you are going to burn out, and you're going to burn out fast. I know a lot of people who just jump into it and be like, this is the trendiest course that I'm seeing where everyone is getting a job. Therefore, this is going to be perfect for me. Please, I'm telling you, please don't do that. Lead with yourself first. Take the time, take paper and pen, figure it out, write down everything that you remember about yourself when you were a student, or if you are a student. Just know yourself. And honestly, that's going to keep you grounded throughout this whole journey, because it is not an easy feat to transition into UX design. If you're interested in getting into UX design, feel free to watch this video next.